Estonia is one of those countries that can look small on a map, but becomes much larger the moment you understand its story. Sitting in northern Europe on the eastern edge of the Baltic Sea, it has fewer than 1.5 million people, making it one of the least populous countries in the European Union. Yet Estonia is often discussed as a global example of digital government, efficient public services, strong education, and technological entrepreneurship. Its capital, Tallinn, combines a medieval old town with one of Europe's most advanced online societies. Estonia's modern identity is shaped by geography, centuries of foreign rule, a powerful cultural survival instinct, and a dramatic return to independence at the end of the Soviet era. To understand Estonia, you have to see both sides at once: a small Baltic republic with deep historical scars, and a modern state that has turned independence into a project of reinvention. Geographically, Estonia is part of the Baltic region of Northern Europe. To the north lies the Gulf of Finland, with Finland just across the water. To the west is the Baltic Sea, facing toward Sweden. To the south is Latvia, Estonia's Baltic neighbor, and to the east is Russia, a border that has carried enormous historical and political weight. Estonia is not only a mainland country. Its territory includes the large islands of Saaremaa and Hiiumaa, plus more than 2,300 smaller islands and islets along the Baltic coast. This maritime setting has always mattered. The sea connected Estonia to trade routes, invaders, cultural influences, and northern European networks. At the same time, its flat landscapes, forests, bogs, lakes, and islands helped preserve local ways of life. Estonia's geography placed it at a crossroads, Nordic in climate and cultural links, Baltic in region, and historically exposed to larger powers from both east and west. Human life in present-day Estonia goes back thousands of years, with habitation dating to at least 9,000 BC. Long before Estonia became a modern nation-state, it was home to communities adapted to forests, waterways, coasts, and seasonal northern conditions. One of the most important facts about early Estonia is that its indigenous medieval population was among the last pagan civilizations in Europe to adopt Christianity. While much of Europe had already been Christianized, the Eastern Baltic remained outside Latin Christendom for a long time. That changed during the Northern Crusades in the 13th century, when military campaigns brought conquest and Christianization. This was not simply a religious shift. It marked the beginning of a long era in which local Estonian-speaking peasants were ruled by foreign elites. The memory of that divide between native population and outside rulers became an important part of Estonia's later national awakening. After the medieval conquest, Estonia spent centuries under the influence or control of outside powers. The Teutonic Order, Denmark, Poland, Sweden, and the Russian Empire all ruled parts of Estonia at different times. These centuries did not erase Estonian culture, but they did shape society profoundly. German-speaking elites held major influence for long periods, especially over land, towns, and institutions. Swedish rule left administrative and educational legacies, while Russian imperial rule later placed Estonia within a much larger empire. For ordinary Estonians, these changes often meant that political power was distant and foreign. Yet language, folk traditions, rural communities, and local identity survived. This long experience of being ruled by others is essential to Estonia's modern self-understanding. Independence was not treated as something ordinary or automatic. When it finally arrived in the 20th century, it represented the reversal of centuries of domination. The road toward modern nationhood gained momentum in the 19th century during what Estonians call the Age of Awakening. Across Europe, national movements were emerging, and in Estonia this meant a new pride in the Estonian language. Literature, folklore, education, and cultural institutions. The Estonian language belongs to the Finnic branch of the Uralic language family, making it related to Finnish rather than to the Indo-European languages spoken by most neighboring peoples. For centuries, Estonian had been the language of the common people rather than the ruling elite. During the awakening, that changed. Intellectuals, teachers, writers, and community leaders began treating Estonian as a language of national culture and political possibility. Song festivals became especially important, gathering large crowds around music and shared identity. Culture became a form of national infrastructure. Before Estonia had a state, it had a language community increasingly conscious of itself as a nation. Estonia declared independence in 1918, in the chaotic aftermath of World War I and the collapse of empires. The Estonian Declaration of Independence was a defining moment. A people long governed by others claimed the right to govern themselves. But independence was not secure just because it was announced. Estonia had to defend its new statehood in a turbulent regional environment. The interwar Republic of Estonia developed as a democratic state for much of the period, building institutions, schools, and civic life around the idea of national self-determination. This first independence period was relatively short, but it became deeply significant in Estonia's legal and historical memory. It proved that an Estonian republic could exist. Later, when the country was occupied and annexed into the Soviet Union, Estonians would argue that the republic had not legally disappeared. It had been interrupted, not extinguished. World War II brought catastrophe to Estonia. At the start of the war, Estonia declared neutrality, but its location made neutrality almost impossible to maintain. The country was invaded and occupied repeatedly, caught between the ambitions of larger totalitarian powers. Ultimately, Estonia was annexed into the Soviet Union. For Estonians, the Soviet period was not simply another change of government. It involved repression, deportations, censorship, political control, and efforts to reshape society according to Soviet priorities. Large-scale demographic and economic changes followed, including industrialization and migration from other parts of the USSR. Yet Estonia's legal position remained internationally contested. Many Western countries did not recognize the Soviet annexation as legitimate. Estonian diplomats and a government in exile helped preserve the idea of de jure state continuity. This legal memory mattered enormously in 1991, because Estonia did not see itself as creating a brand new state, but restoring an occupied republic. Estonia's return to independence is closely associated with the Singing Revolution of 1988 to 1990. The name sounds poetic, but it describes a real political force: mass public gatherings where people sang patriotic songs, revived band symbols, and demanded national rights. In a society where culture had long preserved identity, singing became a peaceful form of resistance. The movement unfolded as Soviet control weakened under reforms and rising public pressure. Estonians pushed for sovereignty, historical truth, and the restoration of national institutions. On August 20, 1991, as the Soviet Union was collapsing, Estonia restored full independence. The date remains one of the central moments in modern Estonian history. The Singing Revolution showed that national liberation did not have to come only through armed conflict. In Estonia's case, language, memory, law, and collective courage helped dismantle imperial control. After 1991, Estonia faced the enormous task of rebuilding a democratic state and transforming its economy. It had to move away from Soviet institutions, restore property rights, create a market economy, reform public administration, and integrate with Western political structures. Estonia chose a clear direction: European and transatlantic integration. In 2004, it joined both NATO and the European Union, two memberships that symbolized security, democracy, and a permanent return to the European mainstream. NATO membership was especially important because of Estonia's border with Russia and its recent experience of occupation. EU membership opened access to markets, funding, legal frameworks, and political partnership. Estonia later became part of the Eurozone, using the euro as its currency. These choices helped anchor the country internationally and gave its reforms a wider framework. For a small state, alliances are not symbolic extras, they are central to security and influence. Politically, Estonia is a democratic unitary parliamentary republic. That means power is organized through elected institutions, with a parliament at the center of national political life. Estonia also has a single-tier local government system made up of 79 municipalities. This relatively streamlined structure fits the scale of a small country, but it also reflects Estonia's broader preference for efficient administration. Internationally, Estonia is often ranked among the least corrupt countries in the world. That reputation is not accidental. It is connected to institutional reforms, transparency, digital services, and a political culture shaped by the desire to break decisively with Soviet-style bureaucracy and informal privilege. Estonia is not free from political debate or social challenges, but its public institutions are widely viewed as effective by global standards. For a country with a difficult 20th-century history, building trustworthy institutions became one of the main pillars of restored independence. One of Estonia's most famous achievements is its digital state. Estonia is known for online public services, digital identity, electronic governance, and a high prevalence of technology companies. The basic idea is that citizens should be able to interact with the state quickly, securely, and with minimal paperwork. Many services that require office visits in other countries can be handled online in Estonia. This digital transformation did not happen simply because Estonia liked technology. It was partly a strategic response to limited resources. A small country with a small population needed efficient systems. Digital tools allowed Estonia to reduce administrative friction, increase transparency, and build a modern reputation. The result is often called e-Estonia, a society where technology is not only a business sector, but part of the relationship between citizens and government. This has made Estonia a case study for countries much larger than itself. Estonia today is a developed, high-income country with an advanced economy, but its significance is not measured only by GDP. It ranks very highly in education, human development, press freedom, public services, and technology. The capital Tallinn is the main political and economic center, while Tartu is known as a major university city and intellectual hub. The official language, Estonian, remains central to national identity, especially after centuries when cultural survival depended on language. At the same time, Estonia's modern society is outward-looking, tied to the European Union, NATO, the Baltic region, the Nordic world, and global technology networks. Estonia's story is ultimately about scale versus impact. It is small in population, but large in historical resilience. It was occupied, but maintained legal continuity. It was poor after Soviet rule, but became digitally advanced. Estonia shows how a small country can use memory, institutions, and innovation to build a distinctive place in the world. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.